Hello, welcome to another episode of Whatever's Cool, the show where we talk about anything and everything that is cool in the world today. I am the grand showman of the cast, Daniel Paul Crow. With me, as always, the bearded woman, that is Tim. And the piece de resistance, the amazing nose picker, Ben.
You mean gold miner?
Gold miner.
Gold miner.
So while we're laughing, we were waiting for everyone to get onto the call, and I got on, and Ben had no idea that I was there, and he was just going for gold, digging into that old nose socket there, and yeah, mate, you're going to town on that bad boy.
Well, you know, people do certain things behind closed doors. Somebody should have been minding their own business.
I kept screaming into the mic, dude, can you please stop? But I couldn't resist.
That was pretty funny.
Either that, or you could just say, like, you know, like no tissues were available at the time. I didn't have my hanky.
Yeah, and I was hungry at the same time.
Just gonna go pop this into my coffee now.
Include with some salt.
This one's the keeper. We're done. I think we've just forced ourselves throughout the entire episode.
Yeah.
Wait, if we're gonna be going that one line, can we just make sure that we just don't make a Guy Ritchie reference in this entire cast, please?
Yeah, I knew you were gonna do that.
Yeah. You idiot. I think that kind of fell flat, but you know,
that went up like a lead balloon.
Anyway, so we're all here to talk about Mulan, which is a lovely story, and we're going to start off with the latest one that was available on Disney Plus on Friday. Firstly, I just want to thank Ben and Tim for paying for it for a change, because I pay for Disney Plus and they paid for it this time, so that was fantastic. Thanks, boys.
Yeah.
Oh, no worries, man. No worries. You know,
shout out to the Disney overlords for charging $35 extra.
Yeah, that was really kind. I felt that it was very reasonable, and luckily for them, this this was a good use of time, I think.
For us to pay $35 to watch a movie.
Well, if you think about it, you'd pay that much anyway if you were to watch it in the cinema. But with this, you actually get to watch it as many times as you want.
Yeah, that's true. But, you know, I'd rather be in the cinema because then I have my popcorn in really bad chairs.
That could be a future episode, I reckon.
Cinema versus home cinema?
Yeah, because I think that's pretty relevant in terms of what's happening right now in Australia with the whole lockdown thing. So
yeah, no, totally. We're not going to be going back to cinemas for a good year, maybe 6 months. But yeah, it's quite weird not being able to go check out a movie like this on the cinema. I think something like this does need to be watched in a cinema setting, especially with the cinematography. But you know, like, well, here we are anyway. We managed to watch it via Disney Plus, so that was quite good. Oh, sorry, go on, man.
No. Well, since you're already on that, like, why don't you just give us a brief introduction about the 2020 version of Mulan? What's the story?
Yeah, all right. I was thinking about whether you felt the same way as this, because when we were chatting about this, you had quite a few things that you wanted to say. So if I were to describe Mulan 2020, I feel like you could actually start off by saying a long time ago in a dynasty far, far away.
Wow. I think you watched too much Star Wars, bro.
I'm just looking at your face and I'm like, oh man, this went over the top of his freaking head.
No, I was actually like thinking of like what could I sort of say? I was like, just do it, even if it's just a stupid pun, just do it.
Were the wheels just turning in your mind? You were trying to figure out something then?
No, I was just like trying to wait, and then all of a sudden, by the time I waited, I realized, did I say something?
This silence is just really deafening. Look, I actually think that this is very much in the vein of a Star Wars film. You know, we've seen the original '98 film, so you know we're all quite familiar with the story. So this one, yeah, we've got a young farm girl. She's skilled in kung fu. She is also, well, as the narration tells us, the father who's played by the fantastic actor Zima, he explains that there is such a thing called qi, and she's quite powerful in it. But you know, he wasn't able to tell her. He didn't have the heart to tell her that, well, you know, the only people who should really be harnessing qi are men. Long story short, well, you know, the Rorans, who are headed by Jason Scott Lee, they are tearing their way through China. The Emperor, who's played by Jet Li in this, decides that, yes, we need to actually conscript all the sons from families all across China so that they can defend us and repel this Roran threat. Mulan makes the decision to actually impersonate a man, because if her father were to go because he's quite obviously crippled, he would most likely die. And so, yeah, the movie plays out like that. It shows her rise from being the young farm girl into a skilled Jedi by the end of it.
You know, I never really thought of it that way, but the way you say it, yeah, it does feel very Star Wars-y.
Well, look, I mean, I was talking about this with the missus, and I think you can actually make the argument that it does have a lot of Star Warsian sort of tropes to it. I mean, you know, like instead of your young farm boy Luke Skywalker, you've got farm girl Mulan. Mm-hmm. You've got a thing that they've described that enables the user to have great power, which is very much similar to having the Force. You know, she wields her sword like a lightsaber, and there's a character in this who's very much like someone who would be on the dark side of the Force, or who would be like the Darth Vader sort of character. That's played by Gong Li. She plays the witch who's shapeshifter as well. So the chi that she possesses, it allows her many different things, such as being able to shapeshift. She can also possess people, and she's an incredibly skilled fighter. You know, she also tries to lure Mulan over to her side at one point in the story. And you know, like I personally, I was not upset by this sort of take on the film. I think it actually flowed quite organically to have archetypes set out like this. So I'm asking you guys if you observe this as well.
That flew over my head while watching it, but when you say it like that, yeah, there's a lot of that element there for me. But it's just like the whole thing with Gong Li's character, that never crossed my mind. And to be honest, I first thought that was Kelly Hu, because she kind of looks very similar to what she looked like in the Scorpion King. So that's what, you know, when you just said Gong Li, I went, is it Gong Li? And I just did some research. Oh yeah, it is Gong Li. Man.
Oh, well, you can school me on wrestling as much as you want, but I can school you on Chinese actors in kung fu movies.
No. It just she looked very similar. I was just like, but that's why I was like, I was confused when you said that Gong Li. He's like, yeah, because like the voice didn't match. I was like, so is this really Kelly Hu? But yeah, so clearly I stuffed up on that one. Like, no,
Ben, what was Ben? What was your take on it all? How did you feel about the story?
Yeah, I did enjoy this story. I mean, there's a lot of, because it's a classic Chinese folklore story, so it remains, I mean, like what Disney did in the 98 version, they took some liberties with some of the storylines and in terms of who the enemy were. At the same time, yeah, I think I can see that it's pretty Star Wars-esque in that way. I mean, you got Donnie Yen as your kind of like mentor / Yoda or Obi-Wan Kenobi type of character there. Yeah. But then the thing I do like about it is just some of the messages behind, there were some of the messages and themes throughout the story. So I think family and devotion was a big one in terms of that, and it's one of the big Chinese, I guess, principles that they live by. I think it's very Confucian in that. I think additionally to that as well, I also like the fact that women were set into particular customs, and they were only like, you know, they were nothing but there to marry a man and didn't have much value, and you know, this kind of rose above it as well. So talking about that in the story was also pretty cool. And I think they did it pretty well here, more so than the original. But I guess we can talk about that later on. But
I felt pretty, because as the audience, you're obviously aware that values have changed greatly since the period of time that this is trying to depict. But I winced when Zima, so he's received his conscription notice, and then they're talking about it at the dining table, and then he just slams his hand down on the table and says, "I'm the father. It's my place to bring honor to this family on the battlefield. You are the daughter. Learn your place." And I just felt like, wow, that is such an awful thing to say. But obviously back then these were the values that were held, like you said. That women's place in society was to make a good match. And that scene's also played out in this one as it's a slightly different take on how it was portrayed in the animated version, but they're told that they need to make a good match, bear children, but in this case bear sons. And I think the messaging in this is quite strong, and I also think it was, I'm not going to say subtle, but I don't think they really just sort of threw it in everyone's faces. I think that the way they delivered and depicted this image of female empowerment and positive, strong role models for women, I think it was done quite well. How did you guys feel?
I agree with you. I think it wasn't shoved down your throat, and I think at the same time, it didn't portray. It wasn't man-hating. I think what a lot of feminist type of movies these days, it's very man-hating, but this movie felt much more empowering, and there's more. Yeah, in Mulan there was like a positive role model there for it. Yeah, because I think she rose above, because she was with the rest of the guys, and she rose above all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. This for me, I felt every emotion that was going through it, and no matter what was going through it, nothing ever felt like it was being shoved down my throat. Nothing felt like it was put there purposely to set up a cause or anything like that. I just think this was really, really done well.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was well, you guys, were any of you at any point worried about how this movie was going to turn out?
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. I think. Sorry, you go.
I'll just make mine quick. I just, because I'd seen the movie, the original, only once, but I do remember a lot of it. The fact that there was no dragons, it didn't look like there was any singing. I was extremely worried. I'm thinking, man, are they going to go all, like Christopher Nolan style, Mulan?
What?
Because it looked very dark. It didn't. The first trailer that came out didn't look like it was going to be a, like a fun kind of movie. It was like looked like it was going a dark turn. So that's why I was a little scared.
That's true. Yeah. My wife was saying the same. So when we saw the trailer, I was like, oh, we've got to show this to our kid. She goes, I don't know. Like, it looks like, it won't have any music in it. And that's generally what draws our kid into watching movies, if it's got musical numbers.
Yeah.
She goes, I think she might get freaked out. And, the Shan Yu type character, I think that guy will freak her out as well. And, look, I'll get into that a little bit, like how my family received this. But yeah, I think, look, I don't think I was that concerned that there wasn't going to be music. And in fact, in the days leading up to the movie making its premiere on Disney Plus, there was talk that there weren't going to be any musical numbers, so there wasn't going to be any singing. Some people that I'd talked to who really loved the movie, they were kind of pissed that was going to be the case, because they'd grown up with such an adoration of the original animated film. So for them to be missing out on things like this, and Mushu, like you've raised, Dan, they were kind of like, well, you're kind of robbing us of things. And I guess maybe it's a feeling that they're being robbed of things that they love from their childhood. How the movie plays out, though, I I've grown up on martial arts movies, and I think that this really fits quite well in Chinese wuxia films. What do you guys think?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just it's weird seeing a Western company produce a Eastern sort of style kind of movie like that, and I really loved it. That they've finally done something like this, and they've done it right. You know what I mean?
There was a real reverence for Chinese culture in it, I think, and I just think that like the way that they did it, it looked so respectful, but also displaying like the traditional values, like you were saying, Trip B, the the reverence for respect for family. Then there was also a lot of things about honor, maybe even like saving face, that sort of stuff, and I think it was just done so well and subtly that everything about it was just firing on all cylinders for me. I just kept taking note of everything, every little bit in the film that I liked, and it might not have been to do with regards to the respect for culture, but just as a wuxia film itself, I was like, man, this is something that would have come out of classic Hong Kong cinema. You've got really beautiful set design. So the farm that they live in is it's amazing. Like it's this large circular building, and it houses multiple families. And that's a set that was actually constructed. I believe this movie was also shot not just in China, but also in New Zealand.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
Yeah, so they were able to take advantage of a lot of the beautiful scenery in New Zealand. This one, Dan, I think I'm surprised you didn't even raise this, but during the the lead up to the matchmaker scene when they were getting Mulan ready, I was thinking, is Dan taking note of how this looks like Guy Ritchie smash cuts? Because it was cutting fast and then slow when they were applying the makeup, and I was thinking Dan is probably getting a real kick out of this.
Anyway. How do we feel about the cast of this? Because I really like the cast here.
Man, I had more to talk about.
Yeah. I don't care.
I know you're trying to move this along because you're trying to save face yourself.
Yeah.
Guy Ritchie thing. I felt that there was something really great to see in almost every section of the film. I mean, there was a fight scene that took place like what looked like it could have been like in a volcanic area between Mulan and the witch. There was the training sequences. They all looked really cool. That sort of harkened back to very, very old school type kung fu films. So there was the bit where, and I mean, this is also stuff that was depicted in the original animated film, but they had the exercise where they had to carry the 2 buckets of water up the stairs, and that just screamed 36 Chambers of Shaolin to me. I just thought this is really, really cool. This is hooking someone like me. They had some really beautiful animation. I thought the Phoenix looked quite good, and I think it was an effective difference compared to having Mushu in this. Like they had the Phoenix, that would appear at various points and guide Mulan on her journey. So I thought that was, it was a fun and a different sort of take. But then, just the way the camera moved, especially during action sequences, it was all quite spectacular. And if we're going to talk about, even though we had to see this on Disney Plus, I think this movie would have looked incredible in a cinema.
I would have loved to see it in IMAX, especially the scene where the arrows are flying in the air. I would love to have seen what that would have been like in IMAX. That was just fantastic the way that was done.
Even the training, like when Mulan and Hong Hui are they're sparring with the spears.
Oh yeah, that was a great scene.
That kind of reminded me of a really great scene from Tai Chi Master. And yeah, just seeing how they did that, I was like, oh yeah, this isn't too bad at all. And like you said, it would look fantastic on a big screen, just to see it, because you'd be able to see the movement probably in a better ratio. But I was just absolutely blown away, and after I've seen it twice now, and yeah, the missus is like, yeah, this is really, really good.
Okay.
Yeah, but so like we've just talked about action sequences. What do you guys think about the action sequences?
I enjoyed the action sequences, just like you said as well. I think the whole movie. I think the only thing I was kind of let down was that, for me, it felt like a war movie with like a G rating. Like around that time, there's just like China was always repelling against invaders or foreign invaders, and it's I guess the themes that come along with that, they're very, I guess, like for adults, and there's always going to be people dying and stuff like that. And even in the original, when the '98 Disney movie, it was if you think about it, it was pretty dark. There was a lot of dark things happening on with that as well, and we can talk about that later on. But like you said, in terms of the action, the choreography, with all the wire work, like I think the actress that played Mulan, she was very, very graceful in terms of the way she moved, and she's had experiences in terms of working in working on these type of movies or TV series. She was famous for playing a particular character in this Chinese series called The Return of the Condor Heroes. And
I know that title. Has that ever been a movie?
A very old movie, but it's an epic book, like an epic novel, created by this guy called Jin Yong. And
yep,
yeah, basically every 5 or 6 years they would make a series out of it because it's just so well received. And yeah, that was her breakout role, and you can see that just from her movements, it was just very, very graceful. And yeah, I remember that action sequence where they were training at camp with just like that little back kick with the stick up and stuff, and her movements and stuff. It was just really, really great. And yeah, and it's always fun to see Donnie Yen in anything.
Oh yeah,
to do that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
that dude, he's on another level, isn't he?
Yeah. And just everything he does is just so intense. Just his movements, just intense. And like, I'm really sold when I see him. And you got Jason Scott Lee. I guess we'll talk about the casting later on. He plays a great villain as well in Bora Khan, truly scary. And even Jet Li has his moments as well. It's great. Like, I think if you're a huge fan of wuxia cinema or just any like Chinese action cinema from the 80s and 90s, it's kind of does a lot of fan service in terms of that.
Absolutely. Dan, how did you feel about the action in this?
I don't think there's anything I can really add on to it, to be honest, because it did go above and beyond for me, because I just from the amount of stuff that's come out from Disney lately with all these live action remakes, or even just some of their live action stuff, the action has never been anywhere near the same or even better to what was previously done. And this, for me, I just felt they did everything correctly. A lot of the sequences way better than what was in the original. So I really liked it. I really did.
I think it was a really good move for them to make Mulan so naturally gifted in martial arts.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but think that she just looked really, really convincing the way that she moved. And, like a lot of that has to do with choreography. And a lot of that also has to do with how well they do the wire work. This, I don't think they went too crazy with wire work, which is always appreciated. But in the main battle sequence where she's returned to the battlefield Sun's armor, so she's now, she's taken her hair out and she's revealed to everyone that she's actually a girl. Did you guys get a feeling that when she was taking on all those Rorans that it it was like a scene out of Dynasty Warriors.
You know what? It reminded me of that action sequence from Red Cliff. Do you remember that John Woo movie?
Yes.
Yeah. Like the battle formations with like everybody shielded up and they throw catapults, and they had this ridiculous formation in that. And funny enough, like what you said, Dynasty Warriors, Red Cliff was based off a story from the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, so which is about the Three Kingdoms, and that's what Dynasty Warriors is based off. And it did remind me of that. But
yeah, like I just sort of saw, like the way that she moved through. She's the single hero that you get to choose. She takes on all these massive hordes of fighters, and then like the game will then tell you what area you need to move to next. So then she moves to another area, lines up all the helmets to pretend that she's got another battalion there, and then she triggers the avalanche. I thought it was really clever. It was very different compared to the original.
Well, how do we feel about the casting about it all?
Definitely.
As a whole,
I think the casting was just spot on.
Can I just ask, because it doesn't make note of it on Wikipedia or anywhere, but is that Jet Li's voice? Because I feel like that's been dubbed, because it doesn't sound anything like him.
I felt the exact same, and I even said it to the missus. I was like, look, no disrespect to him, but he doesn't speak English that well. And I know it's been a far cry from, like his English has developed a lot more since his first English language role, which I think was Lethal Weapon 4, where all he says is, in Hong Kong, you'd be dead.
Be dead.
But yeah, it just didn't sound like him. So, went on to Google. And yes, he was actually dubbed.
Oh, he was?
He was, right. Yeah. So your ear was right.
Yeah, I thought it would have been as well. I think one thing about Jet Li in his movies is that after just beating the crap out of maybe 20 or 30 people, he really just says like a very tough guy. Really has like a tough guy accent or a tough guy voice, and gives off a one-liner. I think that's one of the things about him. I mean, even in his Chinese movies, he's dubbed. So there's that to think about. So Once Upon a Time in China, he's dubbed in that. Fong Sei
I did not know that.
Yes.
Yep. So.
Wow. No. Well, did everyone here like Liu Yifei as Mulan?
Absolute beautiful woman, amazing actress, and she can kick ass. She's a winner in my book on that one.
I think she played the role well. Chinese actress. I think she spent a lot of time with her English coach as well, so she spoke really well, and she conveyed a lot of emotions with her eyes. I thought her dad played really well, Zima. I think my heart kind of broke when he went to collect his conscription notice from, I forgot what the guy's name, but he's one of my favorites from this TV show called Banshee.
Job.
Yeah, Job. When he got it from Job, I was like, and when he knelt down, I kind of, my heart kind of broke, because this guy, he kind of sold it as he was a war hero as well. And Donnie Yen was really effective. Man. Yeah.
One quick one before we start moving on. Did you guys like the little callback with Big Na being the announcer towards the end?
Sorry, who?
Ming Na Wen, I think her name.
Yeah, actually, yeah. So she's like some noblewoman or a like a royal announcer, and she leads Mulan into the emperor's court. And I was like thinking when I first watched it, I was like, I kind of recognize who this is, but I couldn't place it at the time.
Well, it's Agent May from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.,
I don't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I don't know if we could be friends anymore.
Dude, you also watch things like, I don't know, some Killer Clowns movie or whatever the hell.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and that's a classic.
Yeah, okay, look, everyone has a right to their opinion, I suppose.
Obviously there wasn't any song sequences or anything like that, but they did have a very lovely soundtrack. What did you guys reckon how did it all play off with the music?
I thought it was really, really good. I think not having those epic musical numbers kind of fitted in with the whole movie. I think because it's not a musical. I think if you look at it as just like a remake or adaptation rather than a musical, because I guess Beauty and the Beast, it was like a musical remake, and Aladdin was a musical remake, so they had these large musical numbers for it. I thought it was I think it complemented with the action sequences very well in terms of the traveling and the scenery. It fitted in beautifully. There was undertones of the original music from the '98. That was really, really good as well. I thought it suited the movie really, really well.
Yeah,
I really liked it. So
yeah, I don't think I can really add as that much. It's a the way that they frame the movie. I don't think it lends itself to a musical performance format. If they were to have musical numbers, I think it would severely undercut the dramatic performances, and it would suffer a lot of tonal backlash. So if you threw in musical numbers akin to what was in Beauty and the Beast or Aladdin, it just wouldn't work for this for some reason. This was largely done as a wuxia film, and it has a lot of things with regards to the character's development. Like how she starts off and where she winds up by the end. The music was there to inform the scenes, and using reflection in instrumental format to inform Mulan's progress in her journey throughout the film was one of the best things that they could have done. And I think it just evokes that subtle bit of nostalgia rather than just sort of jamming it in your face and saying, hey, this is what you loved about the '98 original. We're going to turn it up to 11. Here you go. Like the fact that this movie captures all of the nostalgia of the original without being overwhelming, it's a testament to the creators and like everyone who worked on this film.
Well, guys, the simple question needs to be asked: is it cool?
Yeah. There's an awkward silence. Are we waiting for someone to answer first? I'll answer.
I think so. I think that's what was happening. No, it is fantastic. I wanted to just add that my daughter, when she watched it, she was so wrapped up by this movie. She loved everything about it, and she didn't even need to be entertained by musical performances. And you know what? Like the movie has a really, really positive message about female empowerment, the strength of female identity. I think it was a very powerful choice to have Mulan reveal herself and make that choice herself as and reveal herself as a female, that is, rather than her being found out by, in the original, she's found out by Shifu and the rest of the men. Because it is such a triumphant film. It's a triumphant move at that point. And so to have that there, I mean, it's something that I'm happy to rewatch again and again because my daughter sees a very positive role model in it.
Yeah.
And so I think it's largely a huge achievement on part of the filmmakers. And Star Wars tropes are in there and it works. It's not a retread of episode 4, but it actually works. It's a story about heroes and villains, good versus evil. So, of course you're going to see those sorts of things, but it is very, very cool.
Yeah, I think it's very cool. I didn't like the fact that they put Disney's Mulan because, like, for me, if I didn't know anything about it, I would have gone, okay, it's not a musical. It would have been a little bit like, just like that. I decided to go take it in, knowing that it was going to be a musical, and I just take it as it is. Fantastic film, absolutely fantastic film. Well, it's everything that you want in a PG sort of film that you can be watching with the whole family. So this is definitely really cool for me, and I'm really glad that we actually got to watch it, on its opening day.
Somewhat together.
Yeah, somewhat together. Don't worry, the time will come when we will all be reunited again. So we'll keep that hope. Now, moving on to the 1998 animated Mulan. Ben, can you just give us a rough synopsis of the original, please?
So basically everything that Tim said about the 2020 remake, the storyline pretty much remains the same with little differences. So rather than the Rurons, you got the Huns that are invading, and you got this pretty great action sequence at the start where there's ropes that are getting thrown onto the Great Wall of China, and then you get the Huns climbing in there to invade China. And then the same storyline in terms of conscription as well. So every man from every family needed to be conscripted to fight against these invaders. And same thing like in 2020. Mulan's father, he's too old, and he's also a war hero as well. And rather than see her dad go to war and most likely get killed due to his age and his physical frailty, she decides to take his place. And now, what the differences are, there's epic musical numbers there. You got a dragon sidekick voiced by the magnificent Eddie Murphy. And then you also got a cricket there for some reason. And yeah, I mean, a much lighter tone. But that being said, even if it's a cartoon, and I do say lighter tone, there are some pretty dark moments in this movie as well. But
it's one of the most darker. Well, it's one of the darkest Disney movies I think they've done. Like the other one that comes to mind is Tarzan, especially that last 30 minutes of Tarzan. But this is pretty dark.
Oh, I can beat that with basically anything from early Disney animated movies. Like,
no, let's. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you're right. I guess that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, Pinocchio, that donkey sick. Oh man, that still gives me nightmares.
Yeah. But moving on as well. Yeah, a lot of the story pretty much remains the same, but there's little bits within it that are slightly different. But yeah, in terms of story, it's pretty much the same. So, because like the 2021, it was based off a classic Chinese folklore. So, yeah, that's pretty much the story. Now, in terms of the voice cast, I already name dropped a pretty famous person as well. So Mulan was actually played by Ming Na. I think her name's Ming Na Wen.
That's right.
And instead of Hong Hui, they had this guy called Captain Li Shang, who was Mulan's love interest in this movie. So that was played by BD Wong. And then Mr. Miyagi, so Pat Morita, was the Emperor of China. And I think they were
really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, Dan, you're gonna get a kick out of this. Shan Yu is voiced by Miguel Ferrer, who actually.
Oh, you're kidding me!
Yeah, he played Bob Morton in RoboCop.
Wow.
Yeah, yay.
Yeah,
That's
callback right there.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's right. But that's just the voice talents for the movie in terms of the soundtrack. You got, the Filipino national hero, Lea Salonga, that sang Reflection in the movie, and I'm pretty sure did all the other female voice songs in the movie itself. There's so many. So they're the main voice talents, if I remember correctly. What do you guys think about the casting for the voice talents?
I think it was really on point. You felt that's the thing with voice actors. It's such an art. So for them to be able to convey emotion just through their voice alone, and of course, I mean, it's backed up by the animation of the characters that they're voicing. It's a real talent that they have. And, you do feel a lot of the emotion. I mentioned before when we were talking about the 2020 version that there's the scene where Mulan is, trying to argue with her father that, he shouldn't go. And yeah, I mean, the same sort of line is spoken. He does say, know your place, which is an incredibly harsh thing to say. And, you do feel that it's a real sort of bastard of a line to hear or for that character to say. You do feel it. You see that there's a lot of heartbreak that happens throughout. And yeah, I mean, she makes that decision to go off and join the war and pretend to be a man, and it plays out really well. It is a dark film. I think it's probably something that I wouldn't show to. Well, I probably shouldn't have shown it to my kid, but she did love it, especially because of the music. The music in it is just amazing. There are so many great numbers throughout it, and I think it's like some somewhat inappropriate messaging, especially with the very first song when she's getting ready to meet the matchmaker. I mean, you have lines like, a girl can bring her family great honor in one way, by striking a good match. And then, like, it moves on and it says, like, we all must serve our emperor who guards us from the Huns, a man by bearing arms, a girl by bearing sons. So, like, it's meant to evoke a sense of what the values were in that era. And, values that are long since outdated. And, Mulan is the vehicle to show that, well, no, she doesn't have to subscribe to the values of the time. She can be herself. I mean, she gets crushed when she's told that by the matchmaker that she won't ever bring her family honor. But, as the movie progresses, like you've got a girl who takes that brave step to fight on her father's behalf. And then she ends up training with all these dudes and beating them, or becoming as skilled as them. And then, it just progresses that way. And, the voice, so, like, if we're going to, I'm probably going off on multiple tangents here, but if we're going to go back to the voice acting, it's done incredibly well to tell you the story of Mulan.
Yeah. Well, you been listing all those names, and then some of them I didn't even know. I mean, Mr. Miyagi being the emperor, the girl, being in it as well. Like, that's just really piqued my interest. I want to watch it again, just now that I can hear their voices. But I remember the very first time I watched it, and as opposed to watching it again for the first time in a long time, last night, the voice acting was really spot on, and there's no one in it that does fit, that sounds like they're phoning it in. It just sounds, they sound like they were really spot on, wanting to bring this tale, and it's just amazing talent that they had there. And
some trivia.
Yeah, okay, just trivia.
Sorry, man.
That's usually my line, but okay. Yeah.
But apparently Eddie Murphy didn't want to go record at the studio. He chose to do that from his home. So he literally phoned it in.
Did he have a reason why he wanted to do that, or he just?
I don't know why he would have chosen to do it. But like, even though he did do that, he was a very fun part to the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, he has some really, really cool lines. I think one of my friends described it best. He's really sassy. I did like how, like when he comes out, he's meant to, like, he's thinking that he's being picked for the role of being the guardian to save Mulan, but they all laugh at him. And he's like, "Jump back, I'm pretty hot." It's like, I don't know, it's just something about the way that Eddie Murphy sounds. It's so inimitable.
I felt that the way he did it, he was like the genie of this film, as opposed to what Robin Williams was with Aladdin. It just, like, anything and everything that he did in this movie it's quotable, and it's just you're locked on to him, not simply because he's a dragon, but just the amazing talent that Eddie Murphy is, and what he does this whole movie.
I think that's what they were going for. Because of the success of Aladdin, they really wanted to get a big name actor. I think I read somewhere that Robin Williams was in consideration to play Mushu, but in the end they got Eddie Murphy, and I don't think it was a bad choice at all. Like, he was very fun. But again, trivia. Apparently, the decision to omit Mushu from the 2020 live action film was because Mushu wasn't actually very well received in China.
I think there's some reasons for that.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that some other time off camera, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, like, well, I mean, I mean, the makers of the new one wanted to be very, very respectful of Chinese culture.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, they made that decision to omit him, and I think like there's always going to be a time and a place for things. I mean, some of the lines in the '98 film I didn't necessarily agree with. Like, I sort of felt like it was kind of forced, or it was like an imitation of what Asian culture might say. But yeah. Look, I mean, the '98 film just has a lot of it's fun, like even though it is very dark, it is very fun. And yeah, I think it's very memorable in terms because of the way that it's made up, and like as a sort of traditional Disney film, which like has this hero going off on and like having their quest, I guess. Like it has beautiful animation, it has that the story that kids would definitely get into, but then also like it has wonderful music, and the music is just on point.
Well, I can't stop getting I'm trying to think of what's the line of the song. Because it's been in my head all day. But be a man, like that. Just that one bit, and just
I'll make a man out of you.
Yeah, like I love that song. It just pumps me up.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but it just really pumps me up, and
as it should.
The whole music of this is just.
Dan actually plays that when he gets ready for the day.
Hey, I worked out to this song for a long time. So
you did. I do remember you saying. I do remember you telling me that.
Yeah, it's a very cool song. I always laugh at it because of Chen Po saying, now I really wish that I knew how to swim. That always gets a laugh out of me, and I know it probably annoys my wife whenever I mention it, but she indulges me.
But the music in this one, it really makes this picture for me. The key element in most Disney films for me is the music. Like if you can have a really great you can have a really good premise, you can have really great characters, but if the music isn't right, case in point, Home on the Range, like had a great story, had great characters, but the music just sucked. This one for me, it's got everything there, and I love the music in this. Everything is just, again, you can re-listen to it, you can sing along with it. In Ben's case, you can get ready for the gym or even use it as a gym song. Yeah, I don't know how you guys feel about how you feel about that, but for me, that's definitely.
I could listen to Lea Salonga's voice all the time. She's just amazing.
National hero.
Yeah. Treasure. Absolute treasure.
Yeah. And look, I mean, the songs were composed by Jerry Goldsmith, who's been in the industry for, I think, since the 60s and 60s? No, 50s. So he's been around in a long time. So other than not just the individual songs, but the scores itself was really epic. I remember during the avalanche scene, that was really, really epic as well. There was a sense of urgency for that. The celebration scene was really, really nice, and hearing most of the scores with an undertone of reflection throughout was also great as well. But yeah, it was like what you guys said. It was a very fun movie of its time as well, and the animation reminded me of just old Chinese artwork as well.
Yeah, that's totally what they were trying to go for when they were doing the animation for it. They referred to so many different bits of artwork just to nail that pattern down. Even the way the movie opens, it does have the brush strokes, I guess, and then it sort of melds into and sort of, well, I wouldn't say fades into, but then it sort of moves into that image of the Great Wall. Like it all, just with those brush strokes, it just looks really, really authentic. I guess, it's definitely holding that art style in high regard.
It just also proves that how is it now? 22 years old. 22.
I'm gonna sit here and let you do maths, so we can wait all day.
Man. Hang on. I think I'm really doing. Yeah, 22. Sorry.
Okay, so
considering how old it is, the fact that it still holds up now, I think that's a testament of it as well. That the songs are still pretty, I was going to say badass, but that's not the word I want to use. It's still very memorable. Animation still looks pretty schmick. Yeah, I think it's an absolute classic, and it should be more higher up on a pedestal when it comes to Disney movies. And it's not really that much talked about,
Yeah, I think it's one of those classic golden era Disney movies of the 90s. I think up the 90s. I think in the 90s you had Lion King, Aladdin. Had this, you had Hunchback of Notre Dame. There were all these classic movies that Disney have decided to slowly look back and remake every single one of them so that they can cash in. But
nostalgia.
Yeah, they're smart because guys like us, we grew up on these movies and they're trying to capture that magic again, and also reintroduce it for a new generation, like your daughter. So, and it's fun just to be able to watch it with your kid.
It's got a built-in audience, and it's definitely something that you can go back to, and then you can introduce it to your own kids or your grandkids or whatever. But also, you're going to get the benefit of seeing it again once it's remade into a live-action picture.
Exactly.
Where it'll cost you $35 to get it on Disney Plus.
Yeah. Well, let's analyze this, guys. Is the original one cool?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yep.
No question.
Okay.
No awkward pauses.
No.
Just straight into it.
No. This was decisive.
All right. Well, on that, let's finish this off with the versus battle. Which is better?
Yeah, that's a really, really tough call for me because I love both in so many ways. But I think this is something that the 2020 film makes such a strong case for being a really, really amazing remake and adaptation of an original picture.
Yep.
The 98 one has, for me, I only saw that a few years ago, but I loved it as soon as I'd seen it. For kids for people who might be like around our age or a little bit younger, it's something that's part of their childhood. So it's a really tough call, but I don't think you can actually say which one's better. I know it sounds like a fence-sitting answer, but it's very different it's very hard to compare because they're different genres. One's animated and a musical, whereas the other one is an action adventure and a wuxia martial arts film.
Yeah.
So it might have the same characters, but the 2020 one has been remixed and presented in a different format. It's not just live actors who are singing songs. So it's very, very difficult for me to say.
Ben, how are you with this one?
Look, I only saw the remake once. I watched that last night. I really enjoyed myself with my wife watching that. I've seen the 98 version like about 10, 15 times and love it to this day as well. Probably won't sit on the fence for this one I can maybe agree with a lot of the points Tim said in terms that, it is kind of like different genres. And I guess I found myself in just in terms of my emotions and memories from the original, I just enjoyed the original so much more. Maybe it's probably worth me watching the remake in another viewing to see what it's like. But if I look at it from like a wuxia lens, the cinematography is beautiful. The costumes were great. I really like the casting as well. Maybe, I think I still say I enjoyed the original more because, I think it was an important time. Yeah, it was an important part of my childhood. And yeah, I mean, the musical numbers still stick with me to this day.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, I'm on the fence. I'm just like Tim. I'm on the fence. If I was
Wow.
going to pick one, like if like gun to the head, and they said you have to watch this with your kids, I think I would stick with 98, simply because I find that one more child friendly. That's it. That would be the only reason why I would pick that one. Both of them, because they're although it's very similar story, they have completely different movies. Like we keep saying, I just can't. I couldn't pick one that was good. Was better than the other, because they had their good points, they had their bad points, but they're just fun movies to watch. So I couldn't get that. Couldn't get there, unfortunately. Well, that ends another episode of Whatever It's Cool. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, RadioPublic, and of course on iTunes. While you're there, make sure you leave us a review there as well. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and enable those notifications. You can find us on Facebook at What If It's Cool Podcast, Twitter on What If It's Cool at What If It's Cool, and we're now on Instagram, so you can find us at What If It's Cool Podcast. So make sure you keep that support coming, and we'll see you on the next one. See you, boys.
Catch.
See ya. Have a good one.
Peace.